Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for waiting for us. Welcome to our Windchill Modeler 9.4 Technical Enablement session. My name is Anna. I will be moderating the webcast as well as recording it. But before we begin, I do have a few logistics to mention. So we will be addressing questions in written, so feel free to submit them at any point during the webcast. And in case we don't have enough time to answer them all, we will extract a report and answer them offline. To submit your questions, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you experience technical difficulties, just use the chat feature to send your message and I will be with you shortly. And at the end of the session, a very small survey will pop up. And I would really appreciate if you could just take a few moments to answer our questions. Your answers will be anonymous. And now I would like to turn the call over to Patrick Ollerton. Patrick, before you begin, please give me just 5 seconds to start the recording.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. We're good to go.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you very much for attending the call today. My name is Patrick Ollerton, Product Manager for Windchill Modeler. We have with us today also Hedley Appley, the VP for Solution Management in SSE Systems.
Hello everybody, thanks for joining us.
Okay, so let's crack on. So here's the agenda for what we'll cover. Provide an overview of the 9.4 release for Windchill Modeler, and then we'll describe the new features in these main topics: usability, OSLC and integrations, and then infrastructure. So let's dive straight in. From a strategic perspective, this 9.4 release continues on delivering on the long-term strategy that we've been working towards for the last few releases. So this is in the area of repository. One of the key strengths of Modeler, as I'm sure you know, is the fact that we have a database backend for a scalable modeling tool, and we're multi-user as well. So we're continuing to evolve the architecture and the database support. And our position is really the systems engineering system of record. So the repository backend is a key element enabling that. We've had a big focus on the user experience, the user interface for both the Windows client and our web applications as well. So we've made some big changes over the last few years, and we're continuing to deliver on that approach, that strategy, with further enhancements and further new features that are generally requested by a lot of our customers. So the goal is to be contemporary, ensure performance is as good as possible, and provide a stunning experience for our users. And of course, a big aspect of what we do is being standards-based, with some of the different standards you can see listed there, which is a vital element of our customers' needs and requirements, is to be able to support and build models in compliance with these standards. And of course, PTC has been making a big play over the last few years in terms of the integrations we have for our design tools. So OSLC, code synchronization, the ACS acronym there. And we've been focusing on PTC products first. So we've invested a lot in integrations with Windchill, RVNS, and also with ThingWorx for systems modeling for IoT. And we've also invested in model simulation, model analysis with third-party tools. And if anybody's interested in any more information on that, feel free to get in touch. We won't cover that during this release or this call, but I'd be happy to provide any information on the simulation and the analysis parts of our world. And we continue to innovate in different areas: product lines, variability, modular systems of systems, and model-driven IoT, as I mentioned, the integration with ThingWorx. So from a high level, we're continuing down with this strategic direction. In terms of what we're delivering for 9.4, the main release themes are to firstly help our customers improve their design and product quality. And We can help them with this by providing better tools to analyze, review, and optimize their design models. We're going to provide new capabilities for more ad hoc reviews, as well as the existing formal milestone reviews. So we're giving customers more options to work or to review their models and designs in a more flexible, rapid way. An enormous part of the strength of Modeler is our integrations with other PTC engineering tools. So we're continuing to build out the capabilities, enhance the integrations that we already have with Windchill, with RVNS, and ensure that we can manage and maintain and we can deploy as effectively as possible with our customers. So this release will include some single sign-on support. This is with RVNS, with Windchill RVNS. And in the future, we'll continue to build single sign-on, and we're targeting with Windchill for the next release. So we'll have a demonstration of the integration we have in 9.4 with RVNS. We have a new tool to manage and maintain OSLC links. So as customers are adopting OSLC integrations over time, they have more maintenance and management needs, and we have a tool to help them do that. The other main area of integration is around IBM Doors Next and managing design configurations when we're integrating with IBM Doors Next and linking with requirements defined in that system. Another big area, like the previous release, Modeler 9.3, where we've made some great strides forward, is usability. In the past, in Modeler 9.2, we implemented and delivered a new contemporary user interface. In 9.3, we spent a lot of the release focusing on usability improvements. And similarly in 9.4. So one of the main areas there is better visualization of complex diagrams. So a lot of our existing customers have very complex diagrams that can be difficult to use and difficult to share. So we're providing tools to help them manage complex diagrams and visualize them in more effective ways. We have some capabilities to optimize auto routing. And we've also redesigned the toolbar, the ribbon toolbar slightly, to make it a little bit more intuitive, to locate actions that are similar in a common location. And then finally, improve product lifecycle management. So this is a fantastic development that brings us in line with other enterprise management lifecycle tools. We now have the ability to assign states and versions to package items in Modeler, so we can manage and control and track the evolution of our designs. Okay, so here we can see in a bit more detail some of those things that I've just talked about. So first of all, diagramming productivity, we'll look at that. And you can see an example of how we've filtered some items out from a diagram. Reviewer, we've made a lot of enhancements in the reviewer tool, so we'll discuss that in a little more detail. And then the package versions and state labels, the graphics at the bottom left shows setting those values. And then there's quick review on the right. And this is the new ad hoc review capability that we'll explain and demonstrate. Here's the list of OSLC enhancements. So single sign-on, as mentioned earlier, with RVNS. OSLC link editing, so managing and maintaining links, possibly after the external server changes name or is rehosted, or possibly to manage the evolution of links, change a link from a canonical or a latest to be version specific, or vice versa. On the OSLC server side, our preview UIs, so these are the user interfaces that Modeler serves up and are displayed in other systems like Windchill and RVNS. They now include a link to the linked item in Windchill Modeler. So one of the key aspects that we've tried to implement across our products is this efficient navigation between our design tools. So when you connecting to another system to view OSLC data, you start by looking at some information, maybe through a preview, and then building some links and relationships. And at the point where you want to actually go and see more information about that item, then you can jump into the tool itself. So navigate into RVNS or into Windchill PDM link and see the full details of that item. So this ability gives other tools and their users the ability to navigate into Modeler to be able to view the full information for linked items. And then we have support for DoorsNext global configuration management, which is a complex topic, which I could take the whole hour talking about. So I'll try not to spend too much time on that, but essentially it's enabling configuration management when we're working with DoorsNext. They have a tool called Global Configurations that controls the configuration of items. And we now can work with that. And when we look at data in Doors, we're respecting the active configuration. Another enhancement that's mainly for one of our large customers, but has broad appeal for anybody working with software development to help with efficiency is Acell Language Configuration Toolkit. So this is an action language extension that allows you to define software development languages in a more generic, abstract manner, and then translate those into different concrete languages. So it provides a more efficient abstract definition using action-based languages. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things. First of all, the toolbar redesign. We have a new toolbar called View that I mentioned a moment ago, and this provides access to our new diagram filtering capability that you can see highlighted here. This is where you can select filters, choose the mode, and go and manage and define a new filter. And we've also relocated some existing actions, the zoom and fit and so on, that were on other ribbons, but probably needed a more intuitive location. We have a new tab, and my red bar has moved. We have a new tab for review. So model review is a really important part of our customers' work, ensuring that the design model complies with whatever standards or policies they have in place, and of course making sure that the design is good and optimized as possible. So we now have its own home within the modeler user interface for full reviews with the reviewer tool, and then this quick review capability that we'll describe in a moment. On the Tools tab, we've added this new action for our link editor. And you can see also that we've started to adopt the official OSLC icon as well within Modeler. So that's a nice enhancement. We've relocated some things into the Layout tab. So this is now the more common location for all diagram layout functions. And we've renamed this tab to Window because it makes a bit more sense. So only small things. Let's look at Reviewer now. So first of all, Reviewer's got a completely new user interface, much more consistent with Modeler itself, using PTC colors. And we start off with a welcome page that kind of provides explains the main functions and guides the user for those that are new to Reviewer. In terms of feature enhancements, well, this is a long-standing customer request and provides great value, we believe. So the individual checks within a review can now be given a priority, and the priority values are configurable, so you can have whatever values you wish in here. But it allows you to have more flexible reporting. So at different phases of your project and your model development, you can include or exclude different levels of priority within your review. Obviously, at the early phases of design, you don't need to be running a complete full review. So that's one way. This is one way that you can do that. When you run the review, you can choose the priority value, and it will choose this value and below. So you can more closely focus exactly what it is that you want to report on. And then obviously when you see the review results at the top right here, the priority is listed within the review output. The report output itself has had some nice visual enhancements. So we're now using PTC colors. We've got some new icons. The text is a little bigger, easier to read. We're using PTC type as well, PTC fonts. At the top of the reports, as you can see, we're providing summary information, what the model is, what the review that was run, if it was a package, and then who run the review and when. It's all really useful information there. And when you want to take this information and share it with others or view it offline, there's now an easy way to export the reports and pass it into a zip file. And obviously then you can save it locally wherever you wish. We've added some OSLC reviews. So this is the first phase really in a wider goal that we have for OSLC reporting. The first phase is reporting the links we have within Modeler. So we've added these new OSLC checks, and it will go through the model or the selected package and check items that are OSLC links, OSLC surrogates, items without OSLC links, items that are OSLC surrogates that don't have links to anything in the model. So this is a nice, useful set of features that will help our customers understand traceability that they have within their designs, and will provide in Reviewer a big list of OSLC links, and they can easily navigate to them and see more information. A simple enhancement, but something that's kind of frustrating for our users, is providing a save button when we're defining user-defined reports. So not too much to explain about that, but it just helps you define your reports more quickly with less frustration, of course. Okay, so here we have a demonstration, recorded movie, showing some of those new features in Reviewer. Since I made this movie, we've got a new splash screen with the right year on it, I will mention. Okay, so here's the new user interface with nice new icons. And here we can configure our report. We can run the report as before. So most of the functionality behaves as it did before with some new enhancements. Here we see the new report output, priority values assigned. When we select one of the reports, new icons. And we've also fixed quite a few bugs along the way that we found with Reviewer and customers have raised. Here's the summary information at the top, as mentioned a moment ago. And here's how we go and assign priority to our checks. So this is a configuration file that you can go and easily edit to define the priority values. And this is where they're displayed within the report. And at the top, when you run the report, you can select which priorities you want to run. Here's where we enable the OSLC reports. So they're not enabled by default. The user has to come and turn these on. And then we can rerun the report and it will display the OSLC relationship information that we have within this model. So in this case, it's found one model item, which is an OSLC surrogate, and is also suspect. Okay, so that's a quick demo. The next feature that I mentioned a moment ago is this quick review capability. accessed from the same toolbar. What we saw a moment ago was really the full reviewer tool. We wanted to provide a way where the users could do a quick, rapid check on a small part of the model, maybe just a diagram that they're working on or the package with the design elements in there. And we think that we shouldn't have to interrupt the user. What we'd like to do is maybe have a more of a guidance tool that's always kind of running. So we investigated that for a little while, and there was quite a performance consideration with that. So what we have is a very rapid way of calling a review and running a review, but allowing the user to continue working on the model. So it kind of runs in the background as the user can continue working on his design. So it's more of an ad hoc review. It actually launches reviewer in the background. So it uses all of the normal reviewer capabilities. It's just another way of calling it, a more lightweight way of calling it, and lightweight report that comes out. So you can see that we load reviewer, we choose a review, then we hit perform, and it can perform the current package or recursively from all child packages as well. And then the reports are outputted into a new output report window for reviewer. So let's have a demonstration of that. So if I select the review tab, and then in this case, review is already loaded, so it's ready to go. And then I just click perform, and I can still continue editing my model while it's running the review. And then the output is put to the window at the bottom. And these are clickable links within the review report. So you can select one of these to review the item. You can right click to navigate to it in the package browser or any of the browsers. So it's a very quick, easy way to go and navigate to the reported item for any disposition. And of course, it's a standard pane, so you can undock it and then resize it as you wish. Run it alongside Modeler so it doesn't impede or interfere with the work that you're doing. So this is a really nice feature, fantastic innovation, I think, really, and it's been very well received by the customers that we've shown it to. We have a few bug fixes that we've resolved in this area as well. So really just resolving some user process errors that weren't working as we'd hope. Improving spell checking. We're now using decimal places to make sure that we don't miss any items when the low numbers are rounded down to 0. Navigation is more logical through the different pages of the review report. We fixed a specific case around reporting activity pins and some typos as well that got fixed. So lots of new great features and quite a few bugs that we've cleaned up as well. On diagram filtering, so this is another great enhancement that a lot of customers have requested for a long time, and we initially went down, thought about the path of implementing or delivering layers on our diagrams to provide a way where users can hide or show information very easily. And we decided that layers are very useful, but actually a dynamic filter where you don't have to set everything up for a layer. You don't have to assign things to a layer. You don't have to do anything. You just need to configure a filter and run it. We thought this would be a much better solution, and absolutely we think it is, because it's very easy to use, very quick to use. So the intent here is to be able to hide information from a very complex diagram so that you can more easily communicate information with other designers, other stakeholders. So a lot of the customers that have requested this have very complex diagrams with lots of simple symbols on them. And often they want to just focus in on a few model elements, and really the rest are not really of interest at that point. So this allows us to hide partially or completely diagram symbols. And we can configure filters based on the type of the item, an attribute on the item, relationship that the item has, or last change date. So, some of the use cases that you might think here, very simple one, remove all comments, remove all requirements from a diagram. Just show me the classes that remain or the blocks. Remove all variability from a diagram, or remove everything that was changed in the last week, or remove everything that wasn't changed in the last week. So it's a very powerful tool. We can create quite simple rules for simple filters, or we can combine them, as you see, with the logic and an OR to make really complex rules. The filters can be personal or shared. So very easily, there's a checkbox where you can make it available to other users. They're written to XML, so you can easily share across sites or with other modeler instances just by copying and pasting the XML into the correct location under the installation directory. So let's have a demonstration. So we have a class diagram with quite a lot of different type of information. It's not really a very complex diagram, but nevertheless, we choose our diagram filter and we choose the mode, and I've chosen Ghost here. So this is just retaining classes and class relationships, and everything else is being hidden. Important to note, the diagram is in read-only mode at this point when a filter is applied. The reason being, it would be too easy to mess up a diagram when a filter is applied because you don't see things. Now we're going in and configuring the filter, which shows the manage filters, and I reversed it in that case. So we can easily reverse the logic, and then it'll hide everything else, as we saw in that example. Here I've made the filter shared, so it's gone into the different location in the user interface. And here we've turned the filter off, so everything is displayed again. And we're only using a very simple type of filter in this case, item type class and a specific association. Here we can add a new rule. So I've created a new filter and I'll add a new rule, last changed, or for a property value, a related item, and that's for a relationship. And then a specific type. So I'm going to use the item type, and then a drop down appears where you can select from our meta model. So choose the type that you're interested in. And I'm going to say, filter out everything that's not a use case. Go and select that new filter that I just created. Choose my mode up at the top left. And there we can see the use cases being ghosted or hidden. So that's a really simple example, just to illustrate the capabilities, but obviously its real value is for where there are very complex diagrams, as you'd expect. Okay, the next new enhancement is package state and version property. And this is something that we felt we needed for some time to really bring us into line to the other design engineering tools that we have with RVNS and with Windchill, and the ability to track maturity of our designs. So we can obviously extend Modeler and capture this information with custom properties, but we felt that it was important that we tracked the state on an item. And much like Windchill and RVNS, of course, things start out life as some kind of concept or in work, and then maybe detailed design, review, approval, release, and then maybe some kind of change. Modeler designs go through a similar life cycle. So we need a way to track this. That way, when we're working in collaborative environments, everybody understands the status of information and the maturity. So it's configurable. We can define the available states and also the state transitions. So for those that know Windchill RVNS, obviously you configure where the allowable states are from any given state so that you can control the process in some way, and we have the same capability. State changes can be propagated to nested packages. to ensure that this works nice and efficiently for large models, large environments. State changes can also trigger setting packages to protected or unprotected. Obviously, if you wanted to make a change to something like a review state, you'd probably want to set the package to protected to ensure the contents of it don't get modified. Obviously, this is user and access permission based, so only if you've got the permissions to protect. But a very useful feature to ensure that we can control changes and lock down data as it evolves and matures. We also have a version property added to a package now. So this is a simple text field where you can capture version information as you release parts of your model, your system or your subsystems. You may want to denote a version at that point. So here we can see in the user interface on a package, we have these new properties listed here, and the one at the bottom is the history. So whenever we make any changes to those properties, those changes are tracked in this property. So we've always got an understanding of what changes were made and who made them and when. Here's how you do it in the user interface. You right-click on a package, select Tools, and then choose Change Package State. It throws up this dialog box where you see the package hierarchy. You see the current state of individual packages, and then you have the target state, the new state. We have validation functions. There may be access permissions in some of these nested packages that would stop you changing its state. So it'll report that here. And we also have the ability to define entry scripts. One of our customers has this kind of capability, and we noticed that they were using scripting to define custom behavior, custom business logic that they want applied when they make these state changes. So we have the ability to define an entry script that will process any additional business logic that you want to apply to ensure that whatever changes made here make sense, or to maybe make any other changes at the same time. So that's a really useful feature to ensure that customers' unique business logic and business rules can be supported. So we configure the lifecycle states using a text file that you can see here. We define the state, we give it a name and an ID. We define, is it protected when we move into this state? Can we edit the version when we are in this state? And what other states can we transition to? So from released, I can go to change planning. There's a disabled flag. So if you want to remove it temporarily from being available to the user. And then we can specify the entry script that's stored in a specific package in the model. And this will apply some, as I said, some custom logic. The states can be granularly defined. So they can be site-wide, per database, or per model version. So depending on how kind of standardized you want your lifecycle states, you can implement them at those different levels. The changing package version dialog is shown here. As I said, quite a simple function. Displays the current version as a text field, and then there's space to enter in the new version. So there's no real restrictions on the field here. You're free to use whatever type of format you choose. So let's take a look at that in action. So right click on, actually select a package, and then we'll go and look at those properties. So there's the package state. It's currently in work. No version set. So I can right click on that package, go to tools, assign a version, in this case, 1.0. Fields updated. So if I go back and right click in tools again, I can change the state. So it shows me the current state, drop down of valid other states I can transition to. I can validate that and make sure that any entry scripts are satisfied, access permissions are okay. Then click on OK to execute, and it will propagate it through nested packages. So if I select a nested package, you can see that's been set to under review. And you notice that it's also set to protected as well, which was part of the configuration of the transition. If we take a look at the history property, we'll see that change. And here's the text configuration file. So there's explanations on each of these properties and what are valid values, but it's pretty straightforward. As I explained a moment ago. So this is a great enhancement for Modeler 9.4, providing consistency with our other enterprise design tools and ensuring that when we start to think about things like OSLC and DPT, that we can align and be consistent with our overall configuration management, with our overall maturity and management of design development. The next usability enhancement is around auto routing, and we want to introduce an option to reduce the line crossing that occurs. Most of the algorithm that we use prioritizes directness in the link, but we want to have an option where you can prioritize no line crossing and avoiding that. So exactly what we're going to provide is still to be confirmed, but hopefully we'll have some good improvements in this area as well. Acell, as I mentioned earlier, is a language configuration kit for used with code generation. So it enables you to define a higher level abstract language definition and an action language that you can then derive language specific content from. So it's quite a specific capability, and customers that do a lot of code generation can take advantage of this. It allows them to define their languages in an easier, more basic way, but then have that translated into Java and C and so on, different types of generators that Modeler provides. So it gives you a way of extending the TDK and providing a more flexible way of defining languages in a more easy format. Some general enhancements. We have a tool that you might know called the links editor that's inside Modeler whenever you create relationships inside Modeler. And we've improved the user interface to make reading item names easier. The UI wasn't very helpful to the user, so now we've improved it so that you can read large item names. We've continued to improve some icons. When we improved the UI in Modeler 9.2, we updated a lot of icons, but there were still a few that needed some improvements. So in UML and variability. Okay, let's talk about OSLC. So we have a single sign-on capability from Modeler 9.4, which works with the scenarios modeler to modeler. So if there's two instances of Windchill Modeler, they can connect to each other using single sign-on. Similarly with Windchill Modeler, with Windchill RVNS, and that works in both directions. So the RVNS user connecting to Modeler will benefit from single sign-on, and the Modeler user connecting to RVNS. We use Ping Federate as a central auth server. So that's a kind of prerequisite. We're reliant on that single sign-on architecture. And this is consistent with obviously other PTC tools. So the intention here is that customers will have one Ping Federate instance that will serve login events for RVNS, Modeler, Windchill, and I believe also ThingWorx and Navigate as well. Okay, so here it is demonstrated, and this is more a demonstration of something not happening. So essentially single sign-on means you can connect to other servers without having to log in again. So in this demonstration, we'll create a server, and we'll add I think we had a modeler server, no, apologies, an RVNS, that was right. We add a modeler server, and we select the checkbox to enable single sign-on. Copy and paste the OSLC root services URL. And then add that server so that we can connect to. Obviously, we provide our credentials at this point. And because we set this as a single sign-on, this is actually now going to authenticate against the ping federate system. So we're not using the normal modeler authentication approach. We're using ping federate and using a remote system for our authentication. So we've successfully authenticated against that server. Modeler's now logged in, and we can access the data in that modeler server. So now let's add another server, an RVNS or ILM server. We plan to update the name of this in an upcoming release. So it's important to check the versions of each tool when you want to use this. But if we add this RVNS server, and now we can browse this system without having to log in. So, well, I say we're not logging in, we're logging in transparently in the background. Modeler is using the credentials that we've already provided, and then logging in again to the ping fed system with those same credentials. So this will make it a lot easier for users to work with multiple systems, and obviously into the future, a user will be able to connect to a modeler server, an RVNS server, and a Windchill PDM link or Windchill PLM server, and not have to log in multiple times. Okay. So the next enhancement in the area of OSLC is support for IBM global configurations. So this is the ability to respect configuration management policy when we're interacting with DAW's data. And I must apologize, this user interface has updated since I created this graphic. But effectively what we do is now when we're looking at data in DAWs, when global configurations are enabled, it's version specific information that we're looking at. We're looking at a stream or a baseline of information which drives its version. So before we were always looking at the latest. So we didn't have any real notion of configurations or versions. But now this, with configuration management enabled in DAWs, you have the ability to do streams, branches, baselines. You have local configurations, and then grouping them all together, you have global configurations. So essentially a global configuration is a collection of pieces of data, version specific data from DAWs or other DAWs, or other IBM apps like quality management, the change app that they have. So when we perform searches in Modeler, we have an active GC. So we know which configuration is active when we're talking and looking at DAW's data. So when we perform searches, we have an active GC. When we look at a link, it takes into account the active global configuration. Excuse me, home phone ringing. So yes, our OSLC links now have the ability to be dynamic. They resolve to different versions of information, of requirements, based on the active global configuration. So again, I'm happy to provide more information on this. I could talk for about an hour, but anybody who has customers that are using DAWs and wants to integrate with OSLC and Modeler. At some point, they'll probably be adopting this configuration management solution, global configurations. So let me know and we can discuss how it works and what our solution is. This is really advanced OSLC integration where we're driving relationships, or we're managing and filtering relationships across systems based on configurations in a remote system. So it's pretty cool stuff. And it's taken a lot of time and effort to work it all out, but yeah, it's fantastic progress. Okay, the next OSLC enhancement is this link editor that I mentioned. Obviously, over time, customers will be changing their OSLC servers, maybe renaming, rehosting. At that point, the OSLC links are kind of broken. So we need a quick way where we can do a bulk update and say server XYZ is now server 123. Update all of my OSLC links to point to the new server, because that's where the OSLC server now lives. So we can do that. We can do a bulk update on existing links in a model. But there's also the use case for individual links, which are users more likely to do rather than an administrator. And maybe at some point in time, they want to transition from linking to the latest version of an item. So we call this a canonical link. But at some point, maybe when the design is released or frozen, they want to change that and not keep pointing to the latest. They want to fix the version and say, okay, point to version 3 and stay there. That's where we've signed off on the design. The link needs to stay at that version. So we can do that as well. So it supports both of those use cases. Let's have a look at it in action. So we access this tool and we load the links that are in the model. Apologies for the flickering here. This is a problem with the recording that I had. So it lists the different servers you have. You can select a server and then it will list the links that you have in that server. So first and foremost, it's a good way of understanding what links you have in given systems. And then at the bottom, you can review the URL, make changes. In this case, we're doing the bulk update. So I'm changing from one server to another. I'm not actually changing anything else, just really that host name part of the URL. When we want to modify individual links, it's a bit more complicated. There's more information to input. So in this example, we're pointing to the current version of a resource in Modeler. So we can change some of these values. We can move repository, we can move the instance, or we can change the version. So this would apply to any OSLC links. This tool can be used for links to Modeler, links to RVNS, links to Windchill, links to doors. And we're basically just editing that URI that we track in Modeler. Okay, I mentioned earlier that we use the OSLC icon now. So this is nice. Users get a very clear visual connection. And obviously, a lot of people are familiar with OSLC as well. On our server, I mentioned that we have this link to the model item. So when in Windchill, you're looking at Modeler previews, or an RVNS, you're looking at Modeler previews, you can see this eye icon, which will take you through to the web interface. And for those who deploy Modeler, we've also got some call timings added to our logging so we can understand performance a little bit easier. Okay, so I've got 7 minutes left. That's enough time to get through what's left. The final area is around infrastructure, and we now bundle SQL Server 2017 with Modeler 9.4. So it's important that we keep up with the latest versions of SQL Server. Our previous version we deployed 2014. So now we come with a much more modern version of SQL Server. It also provides better performance as well. Installation administration. So we've now documented how to configure Modeler to deploy with a remote SQL Server. So for customers who are typically using the SQL Server instance in a data warehouse, data center, they can set up Modeler remotely as well. We've added those instructions to the help. And we've removed the limitation on 8 user groups for access permissions. So this is something that a lot of customers have requested we fix or improve, and we have. We're going to provide a performance guide as well that collates all of the relevant information we know about how to improve and manage performance for Modeler. As we get into bigger accounts, bigger customers, this is becoming more and more important, and it really starts up at the very start of planning a Modeler deployment, understanding the architecture, understanding the hardware requirements, the deployment options, network considerations, and so on. So yeah, this is aimed at customers as well as internal staff and partners as well. We've made a big investment in security in this release. I think probably everyone on the call has seen increased frequency of security events across the world in the last few years, and we need to make sure we are ahead of problems. So we're doing more frequent code scans now with better tools than we've ever used before. Because of that analysis, we've decided to upgrade several third-party components. So this is really important that we harden the application as much as we possibly can. Security assessments, when we decide what to fix and what to improve, we obviously use industry standard analysis and assessments of vulnerabilities. The ratings and the scores for severity continue to be refined. So we keep an eye on these things, and as security issues become perceived or assessed as a higher priority, we have to respond. And we've seen that a lot with some of our third-party components, that 3 years ago they were given a 7.5 rating and now they're 8, 9, which means we have to get onto it and fix them. So the whole IT industry is, of course, increasing focus because there's more and more events. So I think this is very important work for everybody at PTC, and we've invested quite a lot this release. We've implemented some direct fixes for the web interface. Obviously, any web technology is a little bit more exposed in terms of vulnerabilities because it could be potentially deployed with visibility to the internet. So we have to be extra careful and make sure we close down any vulnerabilities. And we continue to invest in training for PTC staff. And we've got a whole new set of courses this year for security, which is fantastic because the industry continues to evolve. The number of threats and vulnerabilities continues. And what we've seen more in the last year is combining vulnerabilities. So one small one can be combined with another one, and then step by step, you can increase the potential for damage. So even small vulnerabilities can lead to big problems, and we can't afford to take any chances. So thanks to everybody involved across PTC who helps us with all of this. We require a team of real experts to help us assess and resolve any of these issues that come up. Okay, in summary, so this is a really important release for PTC, really important release for the MBSC and SSE team. We're delivering on many, many customer requests that we've had over a number of years in the area of design, product quality, ensuring that our customers can make the best possible products themselves, supporting and enabling the digital thread with further OSLC and advanced integrations, improving usability, ensure that Modeler is easier to adopt, easier to use, and more productive, and then improve product lifecycle management with our states and versions so that we're more enterprise ready and align with our other enterprise lifecycle management tools. Okay, so we're at the end of the session, so maybe just time for a quick question. I think that's been dealt with. Thanks, Headley.
We've had about 8 or 9 questions coming in through Q&A, so we've been answering those as we've been going, and a few coming in from the chat, so we've answered those as well. So I think as we're up to time, we probably don't have time for questions, but we'll get back to anybody who wants to follow up offline with their questions, I think.
Thanks very much for handling those. Yes, any questions we haven't asked, we'll follow up afterwards. And of course, the recording and the slides will be available. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I hope this has been useful and informative. And if you need any more help, get in touch. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot to all of you. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.